You're listening to 4CRB's interviews and talkback series.
Welcome to the studio, Supreme Court Judge David Ashton Lewis.
Well, always, I like your welcome and I thank you for it. I'm happy to be here and welcome to all those who are going to listen today.
Well, we're tackling something that I'm not a big fan of, but I have a lot to deal with in business. I have sons and children who also seem to live their lives on it. It is social media, and right. There is a social media ban coming in for anyone under 16 for them to hold an account or maintain an account.
Well, it's 16 and under, isn't it? Not just under. Yeah.
So, look, the social media question has been around for a very long time. I can't imagine you have a social media account, David, do you?
I have Facebook.
Yes.
But that's it. TikTok, Instagram, all this other, I don't even know what they're called. But no, I do have a Facebook account, yes.
I've got Facebook.
I don't pay anything for it.
No.
My son's put me on it 25 years ago, and I just click into it and see the new friend request. Gosh, there's so many people I don't even know in America and in Europe request me to be a friend. And when I go and look, they are people who've put a like sign under a comment I've made in something.
Look, it's funny. I remember a comment when this social media came to the fore, and it was, "I've got so many friends on the internet, I'll never be alone."
That's a rather poignant one, isn't it?
Yes. Look, I think the issue is that one of the biggest things that I've noted in the last 10 to 20 years is companies used to have a moral or a social compass or a social understanding of the do's and don'ts when they were providing a product or service to the population. And one of my big concerns here is that social media has basically said, this is our platform, use it, do whatever you want with it. And the shame of it is, like anything else with when humans get involved with it, there's light and dark to everything.
Well, look, there is. And it's a difficult one, though, because I've known 16-year-olds and under who are extremely responsible and wouldn't bully or do silly things. But there's also others, and she was a young Queensland farming girl, Dolly. Her name was Dolly, and she was a lovely-looking young girl, but because irresponsible, misbehaving other young girls just told her she was ugly day in, day out, drove her to commit suicide. Now, when something does that to a human being, and especially when they're all young, the bulliers are young and the victim is young, well, most humans, the majority of humans are responsible, caring and loving.
Yes.
So we get this then push, we've got to control this. And then you get the libertarians saying, you shouldn't be controlling this. Well, I'm afraid with the libertarian, I'd say sometimes you go too far. Like you're prepared to give a doctor the ability to start prescribing gender-crossing drugs, so there does have to be control. So when you get social media that does bullying, or I understand there are young girls who the bullies have taken and put on social media photographs of that young girl naked.
Look, the stories are endless and they are terrible. I think it all boils down to the fact that the human condition is here, whether we're young, whether we're old.
Yes.
There are responsible people, there are irresponsible people. But one of the points I was going to make is that we've always had rules. We've always had guardrails in our lives. You can't drive until you're 16. You can't drink until you're 18. When we did have news agencies, you couldn't buy pornography until you were 18. These rules were put in place to protect young minds and young people.
So why were they taken away, Colin?
Well, I don't believe they have been taken away. I believe that when we look at them in the genre of social media, there's just never been any rules.
Well, I think that's a good point you make, because I was going to ask you, are you aware of any I don't know we have newsagents anymore, but stores that sell magazines and books. Are you aware of anywhere when a 15-year-old walked up with a plainly explicit sexual magazine and the person just said, yeah, give us your money, and they walked out?
They couldn't. It's like going to the
Yes.
pub and saying,
I
"Hey,
want a beer."
I'd like a beer. Can I see your license,
Yeah.
please?" And
So,
those rules have always been there to protect.
and they're not taken out, but your point is right. But this beast called social media has come in, and the Zuckerbergs and who's the other?
There's a number of them.
Yeah, have just let there be free for all. Now, one of the things going to happen in Australia, the Zuckerbergs, all these others, are going to have to do much more screening to be satisfied that you're over 16.
Look, some people will sit there and argue and say that it's not going to catch everyone. Well,
it won't.
Neither did these rules of you must be 18 to drink.
No, or drive.
Or the example of pornography. And you might be right. I don't believe that you go to the newsagent anymore and there are very many magazines on the shelf. Everything has become something that's provided on the internet.
Yes.
But the point being is that when you look at these things, and we've talked about this in other shows, we can see this with the scooter problem that we have
for sure.
in our society at this point in time. Children are dying. Children are hitting older people and they're having to go to hospital because this entire industry has no guardrails. It has no rules.
No.
It has no way of protecting its citizenry.
Well, I heard someone commenting on this last week say, if you've got one of these scooters or bikes that you don't need to pedal, that just run, they're the same as a motorbike.
Correct.
And therefore there must be, and I think there's enough that we need to, it's a watching brief for all of that, to see whether there'll be an age limit put on to get one of these scooters or bikes. Now, I don't know whether that's good or bad until we see what type of legislation, because we are a free and open society, but open doesn't mean and irresponsible as well.
No, and I think that's a good point you make. And irresponsible as well. We need protections in place for those elements of the community who will take advantage of things.
Well, who many listening today who have had children and cast their minds back to when that child was 14, 15, boy or girl, and didn't seek to lead and guide in terms of their sexuality, their good behaviour in public. I remember saying to my sons, don't do anything that will embarrass your mother, because she's a responsible, respected woman. Now, they've told me now as they're in their 30s, that used to really frighten us, Dad, because you didn't say you can't do something. You didn't say you can do something. What you said was, think about what you're going to do and think, would that embarrass Mum?
That's probably a very good deterrent because Mum, if you upset Mum, boy, oh boy.
Boy, oh boy. I mean, yeah, so look, this whole social media ban needs to be looked at. Now, I think it's coming in December, isn't it?
It is, and I think we're one of the first countries in the world to bring it forward.
No, we are the first.
And a lot of other countries are considering exactly what we're doing and think that it is a great first step in protecting our younger people.
But I think it's important that people understand it's not going to catch everyone. Like you used the example, having to be licensed to drive a vehicle hasn't stopped 13-year-olds getting in vehicles and driving and crashing them and in cases killing people. So rules...
Same with alcohol.
Yeah, rules don't stop. What rules do is seek to regulate.
Yes.
So that when someone goes outside that regulation, they are clearly have a benchmark to be compared to and say, well, you broke the law. Now, we have problems in all areas with youth crime today.
I think it's a bigger symbol, David. I think that the bigger symbol is that this is what society recognises as what's right.
Yes.
And this is what society recognises as what's wrong. Now, you don't have to agree with that.
Yeah.
In fact, you can petition and say that we need to change these rules because they're too restrictive. But right and wrong is under fire nowadays. If we look at social media and what is trending on social media, it is what's funny, and it is what generates the most amount of people looking at what you've put up on posters. Now, it's not right and wrong. It's what's funny and what generates the most amount of interest.
The second one is easily identifiable. Pornography, violence, cruelty, and crime. What do you get flooded every night with on Channel 9, Channel 7, whatever news? You get flooded from the moment it starts with youth crime, stealing cars, people...
Negative.
And why? Because negative draws attention to itself.
Oh dear, yes, isn't this terrible?
Yeah. Like police shoot dead a young man yesterday who was threatening to kill a woman with a knife and was given numerous opportunities to desist, throw the knife down, and he then went to stab her. The police opened fire. And now the police are subject to massive investigation, and that's not wrong. Did you fire your firearm, responsibly and correctly?
That's right.
But you've got to go to an investigation on that. Whereas you go to some thug, and look, I'm reading at the moment a book on Erin Patterson by a former detective who followed this from day one. And looking at what happened, how on earth does society ever let people with this behaviour be out and amongst us? They do, because until they are brought to the attention of the authorities. And how do you get brought to the attention of the authorities? By killing 3 people, attempting to kill another one, and being put to trial where you say, no, it was an accident, and the other side, usually the prosecution, says, no, you intended to murder. And she now goes to prison. And so then she appeals, and that'll come up, I think, in December sometime. So it's always difficult dealing with that which draws the most attention.
Yes.
And that is, as you say, negative, because there's some gene in us that loves violence, that loves crudity, that loves negative. They might also have that gene that loves hero, breath-gasping bravery. But how often do you see that in the news? You don't.
You don't.
You don't. So I'm glad of this social media ban, but one needs, and don't expect it to cover everything, because it won't.
It's like anything else. It needs to be assessed. It needs to be tested and measured.
Does.
I think taking the first step in protecting our younger population and not completely governing what they can and can't see, but it's not an anything goes brief like social media has been in the past.
Well, I know. They've just been irresponsible because they have allowed, look at this Dolly, that young woman, the social media, I think it was on Facebook.
It was social media bullying.
Well, they just turned a blind eye to it.
And
you know the answer you always get? Oh, but we're a democratic and open society. In other words, all right, freedom of speech, freedom of thought, freedom of whatever are not absolute. They are tempered by, again, we've used this example, freedom of speech. Yeah, well, I'm not free to defame you.
Yes,
you can sue me for defamation.
Look, I think that's the point, and the point you make is they're tempered, and they should be tempered with common sense and responsibility.
Yeah, and integrity.
Yes.
Integrity needs to be there. But when you get answers like, oh, but that's restricting people's rights to know, well, the answer should be, and so they should be restricted. That's what we're seeking to do. And to them, to the Zuckerbergs, to that other big multi-billionaire, and they should be restrained. All the rights that you're seeking to say just open slather, are not absolute.
Yes. Look, it's funny, isn't it? You having had a child go through those years, and I resisted for a very long time because he was a sportsman, loved his sport. But then you get to the point as they're growing up that everybody else around them's got social media and phones and so forth, and they end up with a thing called FOMO, the fear of missing out.
Yeah,
And,
FOMO. It's a bit
The
related.
fear of missing out.
It's a bit related to ScoMo.
Yeah,
FOMO, fear of, that's what it means, doesn't it?
Yeah, fear of missing out. And so you supply the phone and the social
Yes.
media, and the sports fall by the wayside. And I think we're a little poorer for
Oh,
it.
did that happen with you?
Yes, it did.
Sports, because I know your son, and I know that he's a responsible young man who respects you and respects his mother.
Yes.
And so he's an ideal type of teenager, and he's now doing an apprenticeship, a trade. So to be feared that even if he has access to a lot, and he's over 16, Nathan.
He's 21 next year.
21, yeah. Well, again, but what you rely on now with him is his upbringing.
Yes.
And the values that he learnt from his mother and father and that he has accepted.
The fear and concern in this is that not everybody gets the same upbringing. No, not everybody gets the same guidance. And I think in our day, David, I think the term was children were being brought up by the television. Well,
Yes, that's right.
The fear here is that children are being brought up by social media, and that
Well, all right,
is a
let's go
desperate
back
concern.
to our... Yeah, but the television was Superman at 6 o'clock.
Yes, or
to
the Thunderbirds.
6:30. The Thunderbirds, or the Dick Van Dyke Show,
Yes.
or Father Knows Best. They were all...
Looney Tunes.
Yep, they were all wholesome, American, Midwestern, good mum and dad, good children.
Good
so
conquers
to be
evil.
influenced by that, I always loved Leave It to Beaver.
Did you?
Did you ever watch that?
No, I don't think I've ever
Well,
watched that one.
look, some listeners will be laughing now and say, "Oh, yes, I remember that, David." Yeah, leave it. They were all wholesome.
Sure.
You know, there was
Happy Days, The Partridge
Oh,
Family,
yeah.
all of those
All
wonderful things.
happy.
Yes, good conquers evil. It was
Yeah.
wholesome. There was
Yeah.
a nice moral sentiment or
Yeah.
lesson in each episode.
Now,
and that's how
I
it was.
understand the distance from that was you're not showing life, though. There are so many unhappy marriages and people divorce and all that. So my response was, so what do? You turn 180 degrees and now start showing awfulness. Isn't there somewhere in the middle? And at least these shows were trying to show the decent, and in those days, Judeo-Christian families. If you want to make shows about the atheistic Nazi families, well, do so. But I don't think it's helpful to see references to the gas chamber.
Look, it's
Or
fun-
to deportation.
I remember reading something, and I can't remember where it was, but it stuck with me. And it's we covet what we see every day. Now,
Well, no, what they added was that we're covering what is reality.
yes,
Now, the reality of the human condition, light and darkness.
sure.
Do you want to concentrate? We've seemingly moved from over-concentrating on the light,
Yes.
healthy, Father Knows Best, all
Yes.
that stuff,
Yep.
to the Nelsons. We're now concentrating on the darkness of things.
That's right. Roadrunner can always winning against
Yes.
Wile E. Coyote.
Well, I used to get annoyed with that and think, oh, come on, this poor old coyote. But couldn't catch the Roadrunner. So,
All right,
look,
bit of a summary. Dave.
yeah, so look, social media is and controlling it for 16 and under is a good thing. The question will remain to see how effective it is and if any good comes out of it. I think good will come out of it, but we do have to balance in whether you're 14 or 16, you have rights. And those rights are not the same as when you're 21 and can vote. Your parents are still ostensibly responsible for you and for your behaviour, what you do.
My argument would
yeah.
be we need to protect and guide
Yes,
young minds
that's a good
and
way to
help
put it.
them understand our society.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. Who's going to argue with that? I mean, I've heard libertarians in my court say, I just let my child make its own decisions. And I leant from the bench and said, do you give any guidance in that? I don't think there's a need to. They've grown up in the house. They've seen their mother and I. So if your child was trending towards something you thought was wrong from your perspective, what would you do? I'd stay out of it. Let the child do it and feel the consequences. Now,
we need to go back to those components. And I've read books and I've heard statements from counsellors and so forth where, and look, there is some truth to them. And again, I think it still comes down to the child and the person and their experience and their upbringing. But one of the comments was that this child in their household, as they grew up, the parents didn't use the word no. Well, the child didn't learn how to use the word no and how to socially work with the word no.
That's a good point. And I think probably the majority of our listeners are Christians.
Yes.
And so I would hope they would seek guidance in their prayer life and that. And I remember hearing people saying, you know, I've been praying to God and I just can't get an answer. And you'd say, why can't? Because I'm not moving forward with this. And I would say, because it was said to me as a teenager, have you ever considered that you have got an answer? And the answer is no.
And it could very well be
and
just
so
that way.
I had people say to me, you know, I've never thought of it like that. And I said, no, we can tend to fall into very easily that God is just this a person in the sky who listens to us and basically gives us whatever we ask for. And so a parent who doesn't say no or teach no is in the same way as that I just expect the outcome will always be good. And it's like giving medals to the 8 participants in a race, isn't it?
Oh, I love the old pass the parcel where everybody actually gets a lolly.
Got a present.
Yes, that's
So
right.
look, you can see the kindness behind that. But what is it teaching in real life? There are winners and there are losers.
Yes, that's right.
There are people who are lucky and people who are unlucky.
And that is life. And that
It
is what
life.
we should be preparing
Yes.
things for.
Oh, no, I agree. So again, it's a watching brief, as they say in the law. We'll watch this and see how it goes.
David Ashton Lewis, thank you very much for your time this morning.
As always, thank you, Colin.
You've been listening to 4CRB's interviews and talkback series. Support local online content and become a financial supporter today at 4CRB.com.